Chapter 2. The Doctor. Of course that was it. Sarah took a gulp of orange juice and spread a slice of wholemeal bread with soft, low-fat vegetable marge, feeling virtuous. Sort of. There was still a lot to be said for a thick piece of toasted white sliced, dripping with melted butter, or spread with half an inch of sugary fine-cut marmalade. Or both. Well, perhaps not just the Doctor himself. It was all the rest of it. How could she settle down to the workaday world, albeit the supposedly glamorous world of the investigative journalist, after the sort of experience she had gone through with the Doctor? It was still difficult to believe that she had actually travelled through time with him. A logical impossibility, time travel. She'd read it up. And yet... They had first met when Sarah was working on a story. The rumour of an official cover-up of the mysterious disappearance of a number of research scientists had taken her, under a false name — she had pretended to be her own aunt, a scientist herself — behind the security barrier at the research establishment in question, only to have her cover penetrated in no time flat by this curious doctor fellow. Well now, what to do about it? A sip of strong black coffee. Kill two birds with one stone? That's what. Cliché. Here was a new project ready-made. An in-depth interview with the Doctor, supported by boxes quoting the opinions of his colleagues and rivals. If she slanted it right, Clorinda might just go for it. Now, where did he hang out? He was scientific advisor to... what was it? Where was the telephone book? Yes, here it was. The United Nations Intelligence Task Force. She found herself grinning as she dialed the number. It would be just great to see him again. Now, come on, Doctor. You're not seriously telling me that you travelled to Atlantis in that old police box? The Doctor had also seemed to think it would be great to meet again, and he had agreed straight away to the idea of an interview. He'd invited her along that very morning to have a bit of a chat, as she had put it, on the understanding that she didn't stop him getting on with his work. Perched on a high stool by the workbench, Sarah felt strangely at home. Though the Doctor's room at Unit HQ was fundamentally the traditional lab with Bunsen burners, various items of scientific glassware, test tubes of course, flasks and jars, even the obligatory retort, as if she were in a medieval alchemist's study, and odd bits of machinery and electronic equipment, the Doctor had made it peculiarly his own. Quite apart from the TARDIS standing in the corner, there were innumerable objects lying about, some of which would have seemed more at home in a museum, and others in a junk shop. There were odd pieces of clothing, a hat with an ostrich feather plume, a piece of rusting armour, a very long knitted scarf, a pair of pointed Renaissance slippers, piles of dried vegetable matter, including some horribly twisted fungi, a dusty stuffed albatross with wings outstretched. She had had to duck underneath to get into the room. A large photograph of a man with a shock of white hair and a bushy moustache. Could it be? It was, you know. Scribbled in the corner it had, "Many thanks for all your help, old friend," and it was signed Albert Einstein, and so on and so on. Been having a bit of a clear out in the TARDIS, the Doctor had said. Only trouble is, you never know when something might come in useful. Now he looked up from the complex piece of circuitry which was engaging more than half his attention. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I think I've found the trouble. It's a matter of the temporal... What did you say?" "Atlantis," Sarah repeated. "You're having me on, surely." The Doctor returned to his work. "My dear Sarah, as they used to say on Venus..." His voice trailed away as he peered more closely into the intricate network in front of him. "Can you come here for a moment? There, you see that? Hold it still for me, will you, while I..." His voice trailed away again. "That little hoogemaflip with the white bit sticking out?" "That's the fella." The Doctor picked up a strange-looking tool with tiny jaws shaped like a beetle's mandibles and poked it into the mess of wires. Used to say what? On Venus. Oh, yes, they had this proverb, you see, the doctor said absently, making some minute adjustments. That's when there were still people on Venus to have proverbs, before the... He stopped, grunting with concentration. So, what was the proverb? Oh, yes. You'd swallow a clacklook and choke on a Menian dust fly. A clacklook? The doctor stood up. A large, lumpy beast, a bit like a moose with no horns. A nervous creature. It had 2 heads, so that a pack of patifangs couldn't creep up on it. It never knew whether it was coming or going. A very confused animal, all in all. Thank you. What for? You can let go now. Oh, yes. Sarah let go and wiggled the stiffness out of her fingers. So, what's all that got to do with going back to Atlantis? Well, said the doctor, you've travelled in the TARDIS yourself about 800 years back to merry England. Merry? That lot? They're hosts, if that's what they could be called, in the medieval castle to which the TARDIS had taken them, seemed to spend most of their time killing each other, when not engaged in trying to kill the doctor and Sarah. The doctor laughed and walked over to the TARDIS. Yes, a grim bunch, weren't they, old Irongrom and his chums? But if you can swallow that, why choke on a mere 3,000 years more? He went inside. Sarah called after him. Yes, but Atlantis wasn't a real place. It's a fantasy, a legend. But the doctor wasn't listening. He returned with a long wire which led out of the door and came back to the bench. Mark you, he said, it was quite a hairy trip. The poor old TARDIS was nearly done for. Time ram. Now what? What was the man talking about? Don't tell me, she said. The TARDIS was attacked by a randy sheep with a clock for a face. The doctor looked at her severely. Time collision. She collided with another TARDIS in the time vortex. They ended up inside each other. Eh? You mean the TARDIS was inside the other one? That's right. The other one was inside the TARDIS. At the same time? At the same time. You've got it. Very disturbing. If you went out of one, you found yourself in the other, and vice versa. No way of getting out. Like being inside a 4-dimensional Mobius strip. Oh well, perhaps it hadn't been such a good idea. I've got a feeling you're not taking this interview very seriously, Doctor. Interview? My editor is going to say that it's all a load of... Watch it. Bananas, she finished feebly, avoiding Codswallop by a breath. The doctor stood up from the task of attaching the power lead to his circuit. He was not pleased. Do you mean to tell me that you've been interviewing me? Well, yes, for my magazine, Metropolitan. The doctor was haughty. Without even asking me? But you know I'm a journalist. I thought you... I did say I wanted to have a bit of a chat, now didn't I? A flicker of emotion passed across the patrician face. What could it be? Disappointment? Sarah floundered on. And I thought, since we got on so well, after all we'd been through together... The doctor's lips were thin. My dear Miss Smith, he said, you are hardly entitled to take such a liberty just because you've saved my life a couple of times. He looked up with irritation as the door swung open. Sarah recognized the man in the army uniform who had come in. It was the officer, a brigadier, wasn't he, who had been in charge of security at the research establishment. Ah, there you are, Doctor, he was saying. The doctor was even more irritated. Well, of course I am, he said. Where else should I be but in my own laboratory? But the brigadier had turned to Sarah. Good morning, he said. Good morning, she replied with relief. If only he knew what a welcome interruption he was. But the doctor wasn't going to let her off so lightly. This is Miss Sarah Jane Smith, "A journalist," he said icily. "She's just leaving." He switched on his circuit. It made a low humming sound. Oh dear. She really had blown it, hadn't she? "Look, Doctor," she said, "I really am sorry if I've upset you, but—" "A journalist?" said the Brigadier. "When we last met, you were some sort of scientist, surely. Studied, bugs, wasn't it?" Oh, Lord, things were getting more complicated by the minute. "Bugs?" she said brightly. "Oh, that sort of thing. Viruses and things. Yes, no. That was my Aunt Lavinia." The low humming of the circuit was getting louder and higher as the doctor adjusted something in its innards. "Really? I would have sworn. Is it important, Brigadier? Because I'm trying to get some work done." "Goodbye, Miss Smith," the doctor added in a near shout, over the electronic screaming beneath his fingers. "But, Doctor—" "The psychotelemetric circuit of the TARDIS has gone on the blink and— pop!" The unbearable noise stopped. A small wisp of smoke drifted up. "Now look what you've made me do, Brigadier. What do you want, for Pete's sake?" The Brigadier seemed to be in no way put out. "I want you to come with me to the opening of this new exhibition thing on Hampstead Heath." "Exhibition?" "Theme park, fun fair, whatever." "You mean Space World?" said Sarah, glad of a change of subject. "I might come too. The press launches at 12. "Lethbridge Stewart," said the doctor. "Let me understand you aright. You have catastrophically interrupted a very tricky operation, on which I may say the entire navigation system of the TARDIS could depend, to invite me to a children's fun fair?" The Brigadier explained. The body of a young man had been found near the perimeter fence of Space World. He seemed to have been attacked by some sort of animal. Scotland Yard had turned the investigation over to UNIT, and the Brigadier had thought it wise to take charge himself. "I have to get stuck in straight away, before the press arrive. Ask a few questions, that sort of thing." "Ask Miss Smith to hold your hand, then. She's very good at asking questions." Okay, so she'd got it wrong. Did he have to go on about it? "I need your help, Doctor. You see, the reason the police want us to be involved was, well, apparently the thigh bone had been bitten clean through, with one snap of the teeth." Hang on, there was a story here. "There isn't a creature on Earth capable of doing that." "Precisely," said the Brigadier. "The pathologist said in his report that it looked as if the man had been savaged by—" He paused. Well, by what, for heaven's sake?" The Brigadier continued somewhat hesitantly. "It sounds absurd, I know, but by a 6-foot saber-toothed Rottweiler." Oh, Lordy, was there ever a story here? Let them try to stop her coming too.